If you're in a period where you're experiencing a lot of anxiety right now, but you also really love coffee, then this video is going to help you understand how you can keep enjoying your coffee while minimizing its effects on any anxiety that you might be feeling these days. So, coffee can contribute to anxiety because it actually mimics and can amplify the physical symptoms that you feel when you're experiencing anxiety. So, caffeine boosts adrenaline once it's in the body, and that will make your heart start to race and can make you feel jittery or really restless in your body, just like you might be feeling when you're experiencing some anxiety. And sometimes we actually experience anxiety because we're experiencing the physical symptoms. So it's not always that we have an anxious thought and then we start experiencing a lot of anxiety. Sometimes it's that for whatever reason, our heart starts to race and that triggers an anxious thought, and that makes you feel more anxiety, which will make your heart race more and cause more anxious thoughts and just kind of get you stuck in this endless loop of anxiety. And one big contributor to this for many people is simply how and when we drink our coffee. And tweaking this tiny little habit can mean all the difference between experiencing a lot of anxiously sleepless nights and getting to have a ton of peaceful, relaxing nights of sleep. So, the first thing that can be helpful to think about when we're talking about this connection between coffee and anxiety is that it is always going to be helpful to eat food before you have any coffee or anything with caffeine. And this is because coffee will spike your cortisol levels, which will cause your heart to race and can then trigger those thoughts of anxiety and get you in that sort of anxiety loop. So, to minimize that, something simple we can do is just put food in front of the coffee going into your body. The food will slow down the absorption of the caffeine, which means that the impact won't be so hard on your cortisol levels. So your heart will not race as much and you won't feel as much anxiety after a cup of coffee if you have that food there first. But exactly what you're eating is also really important, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute here. By the way, my name is Janelle. My background is in nutrition and dietetics, and I went through a season of experiencing a major amount of anxiety a few years ago, and one thing that really helped me was leaning on everything I know from my education about how what we eat and what we do affects the physical body and how that in turn can affect our mental state and our mental health. So I really leaned on that. And one thing that helped me tremendously was changing my habits around coffee. That was the start of me genuinely feeling so much better and getting to the point where I'm out of that season. So I'm hoping that everything in this video is just as helpful for you and hopefully can make a difference if you happen to be in that season. The second thing that can help a lot with this is to front load all of your coffee, any caffeine, to the beginning of your day. And this is because coffee or caffeine in general has a half-life of 6 hours in the body. So that means if you drink a cup of coffee at say like 2 p.m., you still have half of that amount of caffeine in your body at 8 p.m., which is exactly when you really want your body to be winding down and getting ready for sleep. And having caffeine in your system at that time interrupts that process, which is going to make it harder for you to get good quality sleep. And that in turn will make you feel more anxious too. So keeping all of your caffeine consumption before 12 p.m., but honestly even more like 10 a.m. would be even better. Okay, so we talked about the fact that it's important to have food in your body before you drink any coffee. Now we're going to talk about exactly which foods you should eat that will help you out the most. So what's really important here is to focus on eating a meal that balances your blood sugar. So that means eating a meal with fiber, protein, and healthy fat. You want that combo. That's going to balance your blood sugar the most. This is because if you eat a meal that does not balance your blood sugar, so something that's really high in carbs or sugar, that is going to spike your blood sugar And when you spike your blood sugar like that, it will also spike your cortisol. So spiking your blood sugar always has a cascading effect on the rest of your hormones, and cortisol is no exception. It's actually the next thing in line. So when you eat something sugary, so let's just say breakfast, if you're eating pancakes or a sugary yogurt or a fruit smoothie, or for some people, oatmeal, if you're sensitive to that, like I am, those meals will spike your blood sugar, which will in turn spike your cortisol levels, which again will cause your heart to race and can potentially lead to more anxious thoughts and getting stuck in that anxiety loop like we talked about. So instead, opt for a blood sugar balancing meal with protein, fiber, healthy fats, so like veggie egg scramble with avocado, coconut yogurt with nuts and seeds, keep it simple, stuff like that. And then on a similar note, it can also be really helpful to minimize the amount of sugar that's actually in your coffee. And I know this one is really hard for a lot of people. There is nothing more addictive to so many of us than a nice, hot, creamy, sweet cup of coffee, and I totally get it. But if you're in a season where you're feeling a lot of anxiety right now, then this might just be something to think about. This could be something that's really helpful to just maybe even cut back a little bit on the sugar that's in your coffee. And one thing that can be really helpful with this is just to start cutting back a little bit at a time. So if you, for example, usually drink regular coffee with creamer in it, just use like a teaspoon less of creamer each week for a while until you get down to a very minimal amount, or maybe don't even need it. So doing it like that will give your taste buds enough time to adjust, so that way it still tastes good and you still get that same comforting feeling from it the whole time, even while you're using less and less sugar. And if you want to understand more about how your blood sugar works and why it's so important to understand and how you can really balance it, then I'm going to leave this video here for you, here and down below, because I go into a lot more depth in that video. So I will see you over there.